Hi everyone, happy Thursday. I really enjoyed learning about Gestalt and existential therapies this week, or theories. I think that they are both so unique and so different and work for very specific clients, and I definitely found myself learning a lot this week specifically that I did not know before, specifically with Gestalt and some of the exercises. So this was a really exciting week for me. So some similarities and differences between the two theories. Both are interested in the client learning how to take responsibility and ownership over their lives, as well as become more self-aware. Both Tan and Corey noted this in both of their books. Tan noted specifically that for Existential, there is an emphasis on the freedom of the human being to choose his or own values and meanings in life. And then Gestalt, that it emphasizes a capacity to move in the direction of growth and wholeness by being consciously aware or in touch with the present and what the needs and wants are of the person. Though these things say different things, I think they say the same thing differently. They both have a heavy emphasis on the person creating their own meaning in life and their own direction of growth. Some differences, I think the biggest difference that is noted and arguably is for me is that Essential is much more of a way of being. It's much more of a philosophical approach, while Gestalt has a heavy emphasis on different techniques and tools to help the client. As well as the questions that they ask are very different. Existential looks at, meaning and death, and as Tan noted, where am I going in my life? What do I value? Whereas Gestalt is more focused solely on the present, and as Tan noted, focusing more on questions that focus on the what one is experiencing and the how. So I think they just ask very different questions. Some strengths and limitations. Existential, I think, is very adaptable because it is a way of being and more of a philosophical approach. I think that's a major strength. I think that allowing humans the space to search for and find meaning within the self and ponder some of life's most difficult questions is really unique. And I think that it's limited or could be difficult for certain clients because there is so much personal responsibility and there's such little focus on external circumstances beyond the control of the client. Tan notes that focusing on the individual freedom to choose may not give sufficient attention to biological or sociocultural factors in psychological disorders. I think Gestalt is really strong in the fact that because it is so focused on the present, you really can integrate a very mindful approach and the practice of mindfulness. Corey notes that there is power in the present. One of the most notable strengths I also feel like with this approach is that it's very creative and it has so many different tools and techniques available to use and apply to the clients. Weaknesses could be that it really does take a very particular type of client to benefit from this type of therapy. If you have a client who really needs someone that's very compassionate in a very sensitive type of way, they may not do well with the confrontational approach of this theory. Tan even notes that it could be overwhelming for some clients to have this approach and potentially even harmful because it is so overwhelming. It also focuses so much on the present, and thus the past isn't really looked at, and I feel like the past has such a large impact on the person, and not acknowledging or exploring that may not be beneficial for some clients. Tan specifically notes emphasis on focusing on the here and now may result in the client not fully dealing with the past. Biblical compatibility. Existential, I believe, can be more adaptable and integrative because it is just a way of being. So depending on the counselor, how they choose to do that. I think it was compatible in that it can answer some of these questions on the meaning of death. And as noted by Tan, Jesus Christ is the ultimate answer to death, having conquered it by his resurrection and the offer of eternal life and forever in heaven. However, kind of the incompatibleness that Existential kind of notes is that it does not want you to give too much religious meaning to death too quickly, because it may hinder you to truly deal deeply and authentically with death. Gestalt is compatible in that there is an emphasis on being authentic, responsible, and real, which agrees with the perspective of experiencing truth to be set free, which is a biblical concept. However, it's incompatible in that too much emphasis and dependence on the self can take away the dependence on God, which is critical. And then just as far as measurability, I think it can be difficult because for Existential, there are no real techniques. So there's nothing to test because it's more philosophical. And then with Gestalt, there is also still not a lot of empirical research, but it is growing, especially with the empty chair technique specifically, which was a really cool exercise, that an experiment that Gestalt uses that is gaining a lot of empirical research. So just some thoughts that I had for both and answering the questions for this week. Thank you guys.